body must become subordinated to the potencies emanating from those soul rays which stream forth from the outer tier of petals in the egoic lotus. See a treatise on cosmic fire. These are the knowledge petals. On the path of discipleship, the astral body is brought into subjection by the ray of the soul as it pours through the second tier of petals, the love petals. Upon the path of initiation, until the third initiation, the ray of the mental body is subdued by the force of the petals of sacrifice, found in the third tier of petals. Thus the three aspects of the personality are brought into subjection by the energy emanating from the 9 petals of the egoic lotus. After the third initiation, the whole personality, composed of the 3 aspects, becomes sensitive to the energy of pure electric fire, or life, as it pours through the closed bud at the heart of the egoic lotus. The value of the above information consists in the fact that it gives, symbolically, a synthetic picture of man's unfoldment and higher relations. Its danger consists in the capacity of the human intellect to separate and divide, so that the process is regarded as proceeding in successive stages, whereas in reality there is often a paralleling activity going on, and much overlapping, fusing and interrelating of aspects, of rays and of processes, within the time cycle. Such is the program for humanity, as it concerns the unfoldment of the human consciousness. The whole emphasis of the entire evolutionary process is, in the last analysis, placed upon the development of conscious, intelligent awareness in the life animating the various forms. The exact state of awareness is contingent upon the age of the soul. Yet the soul has no age from the standpoint of time, as humanity understand it. It is timeless and eternal. Before the soul there passes the kaleidoscope of the senses, and the recurring drama of outer phenomenal existence. But throughout all these occurrences in time and space, the soul ever preserves the attitude of the onlooker and of the perceiving observer. It beholds and interprets. In the early stages, when the Lemurian consciousness characterizes the phenomenal man, that fragmentary aspect of the soul which indwells and informs the human form, and which gives to the man any real human consciousness which may be present, is inert, inchoate and unorganized. It is devoid of mind as we understand it, and is distinguished only by a complete identification with the physical form and its activities. This is the period of slow tamasic reactions to suffering, joy, pain, to the urge, and satisfaction of desire, and to a heavy subconscious urge to betterment. Life after life passes, and slowly the capacity for conscious identification increases, with the growing desire for a larger range of satisfactions. The indwelling and animating soul becomes ever more deeply hidden, the prisoner of the form nature. The entire forces of the life are concentrated in the physical body, and the desires then expressed are physical desires. At the same time there is a growing tendency towards more subtle desires, such as the astral body evokes. Gradually, the identification of the soul with the form shifts from the physical to the astral form. There is nothing present at this time, which could be called a personality. There is simply a living, active physical body, with its wants and desires, its needs and its appetites, accompanied by a very slow yet steadily increasing shift of the consciousness out of the physical into the astral vehicle. When this shift, in course of time, has been successfully achieved, then the consciousness is no longer entirely identified with the physical vehicle, but it becomes centered in the astral emotional body. Then the focus of the soul's attention, working through the slowly evolving man, is in the world of desire, and the soul becomes identified with another response apparatus, the desire or astral body. His consciousness then becomes the Atlantean consciousness. His desires are no longer so vague and inchoate. They have hitherto been concerned with the basic urges or appetites. First, his urge to self-preservation. then to self-perpetuation through the urge to reproduce, and next, to economic satisfaction. At this stage we have the state of awareness of the infant, and the raw savage. Gradually, however, we find a steadily growing inner realization of desire itself, and less emphasis upon the physical satisfactions. The consciousness slowly begins to respond to the impact of the mind, and to the power to discriminate and choose between various desires. The capacity to employ time somewhat intelligently begins to make its presence felt. The more subtle pleasures begin to make their appeal. Man's desires become less crude and physical. The emerging desire for beauty begins to appear, and a dim sense of aesthetic values. His consciousness is becoming more astral mental, or kama-manasic, and the whole trend of his daily attitudes, or his modes of living, and of his character begins to broaden, to unfold, and to improve. Though he is still ridden by unreasoning desire most of the time, yet the field of his satisfactions and of his sense urges are less definitely animal and more definitely emotional. Moods and feelings come to be recognized, and a dim desire for peace and the urge to find that nebulous thing called happiness begin to play their part. This corresponds to the period of adolescence, and to the state of consciousness called Atlantean. It is the condition of the masses at this present time. The bulk of human beings are still Atlantean, still purely emotional in their reactions and in their approach to life. They are still governed predominantly by selfish desires, and by the calls of the instinctual life. Our Earth humanity is still in the Atlantean stage, whereas the intelligentsia of the world, and the disciples and aspirants, are passing rapidly out of this stage, for they reached individualization on the moon chain, and were the Atlanteans of past history. Workers in the world today should have these facts and sequences most carefully in mind, if they are rightly to appreciate the world problem, and correctly guide and teach the people. They should realize that, speaking generally, there is little true mentality with which to work, when dealing with the submerged masses. That they need to be oriented towards the truly desirable, more than towards the truly reasonable, and the right direction of the energy of desire, as it expresses itself in the untutored, easily swayed masses, should be the effort of all who teach. In the more advanced people of the world today, we have the functioning of the mind-body. This is to be found in a large scale in our Western civilization. The energy of the ray of the mental body begins to pour in, and slowly to assert itself. As this happens, the desire nature is brought under control, and consequently the physical nature can become more definitely the instrument of mental impulses. The brain consciousness begins to organize and the focus of energies begins to shift gradually out of the lower centers into the higher. Mankind is developing the Aryan consciousness, and is reaching maturity. In the more advanced people of the world, we have also the integration of the personality, and the emergence into definite control of the personality ray, with its synthetic, coherent grip of the three bodies and their fusing into one working unit. Later, the personality becomes the instrument of the indwelling soul. The above is a simple and direct statement of a long and difficult evolutionary unfoldment. Its very simplicity will indicate that we have only dealt with the broad outlines, and have ignored the infinite detail of process. The work starts at individualization, and continues through the two final stages of initiation and identification. These three stages mark the progress of the soul consciousness from that of identification with the form to that of identification with the self. These three words, individualization, initiation and identification, cover the whole process of man's career from the time he emerges into the human kingdom till he passes out of it at the third initiation, and functions freely in the fifth kingdom, the kingdom of God. By that time, he has ironed that consciousness is free and unlimited, and can function in form, or out of form according to the behest of the soul, or as the plan can best be served. The soul is then in no way conditioned by form. Just as man can express himself in what is called three-dimensional living, so, by the time he takes the third initiation, he can function actively and consciously in 4 dimensions, and in the final stages of the path of initiation he becomes active 5th dimensionally. As we consider these various degrees of expanding awareness, the significant fact to be borne in mind is that through it all there is one steady, sequential unfoldment taking place. The life of the soul, in this great life cycle which we call human incarnation, passes on the phenomenal plane through all the stages with the same direction, power, steadiness in growth and in the adaptability of form to circumstance and environment, as does the life of God as it flows through the various kingdoms in nature from age to age. The thread of the unfolding consciousness can be traced with clarity in all. Forms are built, used and discarded. Cycles of lives bring the forms into certain phases of unfoldment needed by the progressively inclusive consciousness. Other and later cycles demonstrate the definite and specific effects of this developed consciousness, for some lives are predominantly fruitful in producing causes, which is a paradoxical sentence with deep meaning, and others in working off the effects of the earlier initiated causes. This is a point not often emphasized. Still later cycles of lives bring these two aspects, consciousness and form, into a greater rapport, and thus produce an entirely different type of life. The correspondence to these cycles can be seen working out in the life and consciousness of the planetary logos, as that great life seeks expression through the medium of the 4 kingdoms in nature. However, and this is the fact of supreme importance, all this activity, all this directed unfoldment, all this evolving purpose and livingness, all the events in all the kingdoms of nature, and all the phases of life conditioning in the human family, plus the kaleidoscope of events, the emergence of characteristics and tendencies, the appearance of forms with their unique coloring, qualities and activities, the syntheses and fusions, the urges, instincts and aspirations, the manifested loves and hates. As expressions of the great law of attraction and repulsion, the producing of civilizations, of the sciences and arts in all their wonder and beauty, all this is but the expression of the will to be of certain beings or lives. Their consciousness so far transcends the human, that only the initiate of high degree can enter into their true plan. What we see today is only the expression of their energies in the processes of form-making, and of the evolution of consciousness. The plan, as it is sensed by the world disciples, in the attempt to work and cooperate with it, is only the sensing of that portion of it which concerns the human consciousness. We have not yet been able to catch even the glimmer of the vastness of the synthetic plan for evolutions other than human, both superhuman and subhuman. Nor can we grasp the fabric of God's ideal, as it underlies the sum total of the manifested processes, even upon our little planet. All we really know is the fact of the plan, and that it is very good. That we are enfolded within it and subject to it. Herein may be found a clue to the difficult problem of free will. It might be said that within the limits of the intelligent direction of the